You're listening to Woosox Insider, presented by your Worcester Red Sox.
Hello, everybody, and welcome for another edition of Woosox Insider. You got me, Dylan, doing the intro today because TQ, I don't know where he is. He's somewhere in this park. He's getting ready for today's game. We're getting jiggy with the 90s for Unibank fireworks tonight. I'm sure he's setting up some rockets or something. We got Dave, as always, our wonderful producer. Came in today with the Raptors, Tracy McGrady's jersey. I mean, we really are stepping things up in our control room. And with us on the podcast today is the most resourceful man in the Eastern United States. It's Robert Malone. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
This is a thrill, man. I'm going to have a good time today, and you guys are going to let me talk about one of the things I love the most, and that's Polar Park.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. So for those who don't know, Robert Malone has been here since the first shovel hit the ground. I was confused about the timeline of you working for us for so long. It was just cleared up to me by Jeff Caster. So you've been here since the first shovel hit because you were working for Skanska with the city of Worcester, and then you transitioned into a role operating everything in the ballpark for Polar Park, the head of our operations of all of our new equipment here, our playground, our video board, all of the wonderful improvements you've seen this year. Got to give you some credit where credit's due because it's been a stressful 6 months for our buddy here.
Well, you know, the really great thing about it is I came into this with a leg up on most people because I was here, like you said, for the build. So very familiar with all the mechanical systems, and we have such a great support staff. I have a core guys, 4 guys that work for me, and they lay it all out every day. And every time there's a need, it's not, well, gee, I don't have time for that. It's like, how do we respond? And one of the really cool things that, you know, when you get to be more senior in your career, you turn to maybe a mentorship, but maybe an instructor too. It's like you're a teacher. And I try and tell all my guys, and it's something that a mentor of mine fostered in me 40 years ago when he said, whenever you get involved in something, you're part of it, you're part of a solution. Anything you do, try and make it better when you leave it. You come to a situation and you see something that's a certain way, and if you can improve upon it and make it better when you're done with it. And I think if everybody did that as part of their job mantra, I think everything would flow a lot better. And we have our challenges here. This is a very complex place we have here at Polar Park. There's a lot of automated systems, and all those go through building management systems, which are computers that, Zach Johnson can take his smartphone and he can adjust the temperature in any room in the building, even when he's on Florida. He went down there over the Memorial Day holiday, visited his mom down there and said, Robert, I need to get away for a little bit. And I said, great. And I said, who's going to manage the temps in your absence? And he said, I'm going to do it right from my smartphone. And we had a couple of requests, and I sent it to him and he made the adjustment, and we move on. And technology has really allowed some of my guys to have a life. And it's very demanding when you're in facilities. Elliot Lindstrom does a fantastic job on the field. When you're in facilities, you have a many-pronged leg stool that you sit on, and it goes through the cleaning of the ballpark, the maintenance of the ballpark, the upkeep of the field, security. There's so many things, and we all rely on each other. It's a very codependent relationship that we have here, and working together, we're able to do this, and all with the mission that we want to make this the best facility we can, the most welcoming, the most family friendly, the safest, the most courteous, the cleanest. That's the charge. And you know what? It's every day. Here lately, one of the crazy things is something none of us can control in Mother Nature is the pollen.
Oh my goodness. I was driving in on, I think it was Tuesday, and I thought there was a fire or something. I drove through a cloud of pollen for 6 miles on the way here.
I got here Tuesday. Almost the full thing of Polar Park was just covered in this yellow. Looked like Smiley Ball rained down. Looked like Smiley Ball rained down everywhere.
We're sitting in the front office meeting on Tuesday, and you're in the DCU club and you look out toward the field, and anyone who's seen the fires in the Pacific Northwest, you see the smoke going through. It looked like green smoke, yellow tinged green smoke moving across the whole ballpark. And I'm so fortunate that I'm not afflicted by the pollen hay fever or anything like that. It doesn't bother me at all. But there are so many people that are just almost crippled. It makes them miserable. They can't breathe. And, even though we're post-COVID, then you start thinking, well, should I take a test? I'm clogged up. I can't breathe. Is it the pollen or whatever? But then it becomes a chore for all the ushers and everybody to get this cleaned up. So you don't know which days it's going to be the worst for pollen. So you go to the internet and you do some research that tells you what the high pollen day is. And then we got to mobilize half a dozen people to spray down. We've got great backpack sprayers. We're using the latest in technologies that we can go through and we can sanitize and wet them down to the point to where we can remove the pollen as best we can. But we've got over 6,000 seats in the bowl. So right now the guys are out pressure washing, which they do every day before a game. And, it's challenging sometimes when we have, a night game followed by a day game, which we're going to get a break from that until August now. But it's just that mobilization of effort. And, we carry a big whiteboard down in the dock manager's office, and we've got everything. These are all the things that need to do. And your first concern is, what do we need to do to play baseball? And
this place, it certainly is a living organism, and we're very lucky to have you at the membrane of it. I think what you said a minute ago was very poignant, where you said that when you see something that can be improved, you do it. And that's what you've brought to this park. You walk around, and I think that was a perfect example right there with the pollen, where you're running all the operations for this ballpark. When you come in the morning, you don't know what you're going to have to deal with. It might be a pollen storm, completely unforeseen, that you have to work out a solution for. I remember on opening day, I was trying to set up our pregame show on the field for Larry Lucchino to come on for our new ballpark with the beautiful video board in the background. And I plugged in the power outlet for the camera and for everything else, and I couldn't get it on. And I panicked. I had no idea where to turn. I called Robert Malone, and he said, "What are you panicked about? We'll get it taken care of." I sent him a picture, like, is this thing is off? Is this what I need to fix? He goes, "Why are you sending me pictures of a space heater?" And he got someone down there. You got it fixed. You're the problem solver, and it's very appreciated.
So I got to tell you what, I really love what I do. And I know I come across as probably the salty, grumpy old guy, but I'm processing so much information. I've got this problem at this end of the ballpark. I got this person that needs that. I've got all this laundry, and I'm zooming around. And this is really a funny story from opening day. So opening day, we had Hank and Ben broadcast that we have weekly. We had that from the duck boat, of all places. So I'm here at 4:00 in the morning, and we're making sure that everything, because you can't leave anything to chance. They needed internet, they needed power. We set up for it the night before, but ballparks have gremlins. And things go wrong that you just can't imagine going wrong. So I'm just like, I can't let us be embarrassed. So you show up and you verify you have internet, you verify you have power. Everything they need to make this happen on opening day is super critical. So wouldn't you know it, we go out there and we fire everything up. They have power, but the internet's not working. And it had worked at 8:00 the night before. And so somebody turned a switch off in a panel. And it took us about 10 minutes to find that, but the show goes on. Then we go through the entire day. And when you check, most of us have, smartphone devices, and we can figure out, like how many steps and stuff like that. And when it got converted, opening day, 64 years old, I did 16 miles.
Good God.
That's man.
Oh my gosh. I don't think my bones could handle that in this place. There have been some times, like I've seen Dave run from the field up to the control room. It's a hike. There's a lot of stairs here. We make it as accessible as possible for the fans. But if you're going up and down all around, it's what is the Woosox loop? It's like, is it a mile? Is it like a 3/4 of a mile? You must walk that like 10 times a day.
It's just, phenomenal. But you know what? It's good exercise for an old guy. Used to be a runner. My wife and I did it for our leisure time, and it tells you we didn't have a life. But we would do running. We volunteered for the Boston Marathon. We did the Bermuda Triangle Challenge. So running was something we really enjoyed. And, that was, 10, 12 years ago when I was a lot younger. And, I had to start acting my age and slow down a little bit. But I certainly enjoyed it then. And as the other day, I needed to do something for Charles. And it was like no time. And I needed a key for a certain area. And the only key was back at my office. So I sprinted from gate A all the way to my office on the club level, then got back, got him what he needed. Eric Olafson was there. We were getting an amp and a cord for Charles, and gets it in his car, and he made it to the radio station. I caught up with him later. I said, "Did you get there in time?" He said, "We literally had 15 seconds to spare." And I said, "Okay, well, we did that. We're on to other things."
Well, next time you do it, you have 15 seconds to work with. You can take your time.
I could have stopped and got a coffee on the way or something.
Exactly. Take care of some other problem on the way there. We couldn't have TQ on the podcast today, but one thing he made me promise to ask you about is bubbles. We have some amazing amenities out in this park. But one of the ones that you brought to us out of nowhere, I feel like, is the bubble machine out there. What's the story behind that?
Great story. So, oldest daughter and her husband came for a visit with my granddaughter, whose name is Poppy. And they were here on a non-baseball week. And of course, Poppy's not even 2 yet, but they said, boy, she loves going to the playground. They live in Philadelphia, and both of them work associated with Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, both doctors. And I can't say this without saying Mariko is an MD, PhD. So she's a doctor. I got to qualify that because she's going to see this and say, Robert, get it right. Anyway, they said they want to take Poppy to the playground. I said, I just so happen to know there's a playground and I have a key. So we came over to the playground, and they wheeled her baby cart over and like that. And so she's playing on the playground, and we're having a good time and everything like that. And Mariko went over, her mom, and got the bubbles out, the portable bubbles. And she's making bubbles go all over the playground. And they said, wouldn't it be fantastic if you had a bubble machine? So if anybody here is a musician, and shameless plug for Sweetwater, I have a lot of guitars I bought from them, but they also have the DJ bubble machines. So I asked Larry and Charles if I could do it and add that as a playground amenity. And they said, sure. It was pretty short money to do it. And we go through a gallon of bubble fluid every game. And everything was going fantastic until the other evening when the wind pitched in the other direction, and we were blowing bubbles out into left center field. And I got this call over the radio that said, hey, can you turn the bubbles off? Because ESPN's showing bubbles drifting on the field.
It definitely was a fun sight when there's always, and same as in facilities in the productions and in the control room, we're always looking for problems that we can try and fix. And when everything seems to calm down, we say, what was that? And what was that? And what are those two things? Those are bubbles. My goodness. But the broadcasters had a laugh about it, and we gave a call, and within a minute it was turned off, because that's the living organism that we have running here, that we can get those things taken care of.
So if it's on the very nozzle where the bubbles come out, it says Poppy's Bubbles.
Oh,
and,
that's incredible.
So that's an homage to my granddaughter and my grandkids. Don't call me grandpa or anything. They call me grandude. And I love it.
That's incredible. Wow. I'm glad they come out to the park so much. You have 6 kids, right?
That's it.
6 kids. One of them works here, Sarah Malone, shout out. So you're bringing the whole family to the park and trying to make it a family environment. You have an incentive to make it more of a family environment for everyone that comes here. So if you come and you see those touches up, you know that Robert's just doing it for himself and for Poppy.
Yeah, it's like recently my wife and I sold our home in Western Mass, and we had 77 acres and a big house out there, and families all moved on. So we sold the house. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be such a nice break for me, because I won't have 77 acres to take care of. And I laughed the other day, and I told my wife, Kay, I said, you know what? I said, I traded 77 for 20. 22 actually for the ballpark site. And I said, the only thing that's missing is Elliot won't let me mow the grass. Man,
that's something that he holds sacred. You're not going to take that from Elliot.
Oh, you got to ask him about his Forrest Gump hat. You know, in the movie where Forrest Gump's driving mowing grass,
yeah,
I gave him a Forrest Gump hat. So and told him, I said, you got to let me get a picture of you mowing grass out there with it. But it hasn't happened yet, but I'm still holding out hope.
So Rob, you've been in the construction business for over 40 years now.
Oh yeah.
Working at, Polar Park, even though it's a minor league ballpark, there's nothing minor about it. There's so much technology in this park. What is it like over the years adapting to the ongoing advancement of technology and then coming to a place like Polar Park where we're just adding new stuff? It feels like every single month there's something new that gets added here. What is the workload like, and what is it like adapting to almost, a new environment over the years almost?
Well, I think the good thing is it felt like, 5 minutes ago, I was the youngest guy on the job team, and now I'm the oldest guy. And I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by young, smart people that are with it, with technology. And I have to defer to them sometimes because it's just, there's things I can figure out the nuts and bolts, but some of the computer and the interface, I just go to the strength. And when it's just like, when Chad Tracy pulls somebody off the bench and goes in, you got to go to your hot hand, your strength. And we've got really smart people here. So you don't try and overanalyze it. If it's beyond your capabilities, you go to your bench, you bring in somebody young and smart and go. Right when we came into the 2000s, I was working on a very prestigious performing arts and at Bard College, the Fisher Center. And the place is fantastic. It's a Frank Gehry design. If you know Rockstar Architects, he's definitely preeminent, great guy to work with, great team. And we had technology then that, people would look at now and say, oh my gosh, that's so antiquated, but it was the best we had at the time. And, it wasn't as computer laden. We had boards with relays on it, and you would go into a room and you had a lighting problem, you had a ventilation problem, you're punching buttons on a board for different relays and changing breakers out. And then we had one of the first building management systems there. And it was good, but when you had a problem, it printed it out on a dot matrix printer. So in the morning you go in, you read off all the problems from the night before, and then you figure out what's my action plan to deal with that. And, the really cool thing at Polar Park is we added a new video board this year that's 22 feet tall and 39 feet wide. And you look at that video board and all the components to it, it's absolutely fantastic. And it's not just that video board. I've lost count of how many TVs we have now. We have a lot of TVs around Polar Park, and some of them are indoor, some of them are weatherproof for outdoor. But, the guys walk around with an iPad and I say, hey, we're not getting sound out of this one. And, they'll go over and they'll hold their iPad and they'll do a few things and the sound just comes on. And, I get in trouble with a clicker at home. So, it's great to have the young folks here that really understand the technology, and I learn something from them every day.
Go ahead, Dave. You go ahead.
Going back to the video board.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. We share them.
What was the process like of not only getting it built, but getting the idea for it? Because from my understanding, there was conversation about possibly just putting TVs out on the berm along the fence. How did it go from TV or monitors at the berm to building, like you said, a 22-foot tall, 39-foot wide whole video board on top of the already existing video board on the Worcester wall?
Well, early on, I was asked, brought in a conversation with Charles and Janet and Larry, and they were saying, we're thinking about adding some large monitors on the structural columns left and right of where we see the Hanover deck sign. And will that solve the problem? And so we actually went to those different locations, and we would sit there and we'd turn our head to the left if we were sitting in sections 1 through 4. And Yeah, they would have got more information, but the mantra here is what can we do and what can we do at the very best? What's the best thing we can add for the park? So as we looked around the landscape, we had the area where the previous line scoreboard was. And I said, well, what if we would do a digital board from the field level all the way up? And they said, well, maybe, but what does it cost? How do we do it? What's the timeline? And so that's when I kick in gear and I start pulling all the nuts and bolts together. And finally, right in December, right during the after Christmas break, uh, Larry and the partners and everybody decided, Janet Marie Smith looked at it, gave us counsel on what we do, how we do it, what we could do with it. Jack Verducci, as far as what we're going to, our sales team and how we work with that. And of course, TQ and yourself, everybody working on the technology side. What are we going to show as images on there? And how does it work holistically in the park? So we were given approval to move forward. And one of the things everybody talks about is supply chain and all the problems you have with it. So we basically signed an agreement to purchase it. And I think about the same time, what I'm hearing is, and I don't have, intimate knowledge at Fenway, but they ordered their new balance board about the same time we did. And we got ours about 2 weeks before theirs. And the difference was, I believe theirs went over the ocean on a cargo barge. And we got ours flown in. And we knew we had to have it up and operational for opening day. And the timeline just wasn't working. It was too much to chance. And because the old line scoreboard had to come down before we could put the new one. And I think the PDL agreement says we have to have the line score visible all the time. And we didn't want to put it on the main scoreboard. So it was just push, push, push to get it done. Selected that option. Got it flown over, got it delivered, got it installed. And we had about 8 days to test it out before opening day. And, all the stuff behind the scenes, like I say, I go to the strengths on the technology guys. You guys were able to get it programmed, get images on it. And it was just one of those things that was so heartwarming that you start out with an idea that everybody came together, gave me good, clear direction on, and it was just, Robert, go. And, I kind of like that.
You've earned the trust that's been given to you. The video board is one of this park's greatest achievements and greatest headaches. It was a lot of pressure and stress to get that thing up for opening day so that everyone that came in that sat on the third base side of the park could finally see the video board that they'd been asking for all of the first year. I want to ask you, you've been a part of a lot of changes in this park. Where would you rank? What's your favorite? What's your top pick for additions to this park? Is it the bubbles? Is it the video board? Or is it something that's coming up later this season? What have you enjoyed working on? And I guess you have to weigh it against like how much of a headache something is, because some things are very difficult to pull off.
Well, I got to tell you, really, selfishly, it's the Yingling Flight Deck 34. Adding that 34 seats there, and everybody came together. I called Tom Martinez. He's one of the partners, DIAQ, our architect. And, I floated the idea with Ben Weingarten before I ever became a Woosox employee. And it was, can we do this? Can we do it code-wise? Because these are all things that we have to consider. And so we brought the same structural team, the same architect together. With Janet, orchestrating the images and everything about how it's going to look like, how we service it, how we build it. And then we have to have two means of egress, which is, as we know, is up the stairs to the batter's eye, or now we have an emergency door that would let you right out on the warning track in right center field. So we had to go through a couple manifestations of design and pricing. And then I got the green light for go. And it's like, it has to be done for opening day. So, and it was a absolute photo finish. We were done hours before the park opened on opening day. And I think it's one of a really exciting place to set. We're not done. We're still doing a little tweaking to that. We're going to make the drink rail a little better than what it is right now. And I think it's a really exciting place, and it's going to be, I think, a favorite place going forward. And I think all of us know the 34 seat is a nod to David Ortiz and his Hall of Fame induction. So we're all really excited about that. That's kind of one of my favorites, but you know what? There's other stuff coming. Charles will have to tell you about that. I'm not going to announce spoilers today.
I will
No
say,
spoilers. Wow,
looking at
that's a
those,
good call.
looking at those seats, I haven't been to a game yet in Worcester as a fan, but if I were to, that would probably be the seat. Either that or the Worcester Wall would be the seat I would buy.
So
Those are the amazing seats out there.
I like to go visit with fans during the game, and I go talk to them, and it may sound funny, but I'm interested in things that they observe. Problems. I probably hand out 15 or 20 business cards every game. I talk to people. I ask them about their experience. Is there something we could do better here? Did you see something that, maybe you have a question about? Here's my card. Look me up. If you have a suggestion, of course, I get some crackpot ones too, but I get some good suggestions. And what's so fantastic about working here is I can go sit with Charles and Larry and Janet and Dan Ray and say, hey, look, I'm getting some feedback from a fan. I think I know a way I could solve it. This is the price point that I think it's going to take to do this. And they're like, sure, go ahead. The fans with the misters, that's a really good example. Really high heat, high humidity days. We've had a few of them. And I was talking about, can we add misting fans at different places in the ballpark? So we went from 2 to 4. And I think before it's all over, we'll probably have 8 of those. But they work really well, pretty short money, great fan amenity. And I walked past and one lady was there and her daughter was probably 8 or 10. And she says, oh my God, this is a godsend. You guys are just with it. You understand what it's like to be a fan. And take it from a guy who was the worst baseball player in the history of the world. When I was a kid growing up, I stunk on ice. And to have my career end up being at Polar Park, being part of this kind of organization, feeling the excitement, hurl the pearl and throwing t-shirts on a Friday night, I get really excited about. And I was so excited that the young folks at work here invited me. Hey, Robert, do you want to come be a part of that? And I'm like, well, it's not a request to fix something. It's actually an opportunity to have some fun. And I really enjoy that, being kind of adopted in as the old guy and amongst a sea of, I say youngsters, but great young professionals. It's just the best.
I don't know anyone here that's faster with a quip. You can keep calling yourself old, but it's definitely not showing. I have 2 things to ask you, and I feel like I'm playing 2 truths and a lie a little bit, because I hear some stuff about your storied career that it sounds like it's too much to be true. The first thing is the less outrageous one, and this is that I heard you mentioned earlier that you have a collection of guitars. When I talked to Jeff Caster 1 hour ago, he let me know that you used to own antique cars that you would lend to like movie producers to use in their processes. Like, what is the life that you have lived? Can you tell us about that?
Just, I got to tell you what, I'm blessed. I'm a guy who started out at, 18 years of age, out of high school, trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do. And I went to tech school when I was in high school. And so I was a draftsman. And when you're a draftsman, you do things like, map making, which led to surveying, which led to me working as a coal miner. And so I was a coal miner in West Virginia as a young kid, and I was a surveyor and a map maker, and went from there to attended Fairmont State College while I was working in the mines. And then I went to Texas, and I ended up starting a consulting engineering business in Texas, did that for a number of years, and ended up moving to New England, met my wife, who is the best thing, clearly hands down, the best thing that's ever happened to me. And great family, great kids, great career when I moved to New England and got into vertical construction. And, it's full circle, all the things that can happen in your life. You ask about the cars. My father had a Mercedes, and I wanted to drive that car worse than anything. And can you imagine a man who has worked hard enough to be able to afford to buy a Mercedes in the 1970s, and your son that's in his early 20s that wants to rip and tear everywhere, are you gonna let that kid drive that Mercedes? Yeah, don't think so. And I can remember asking my dad, I said, could I drive the Mercedes? And he goes, one of these days you'll get your own. So it took a long time to do it, but I bought a Mercedes 300 SD, an 83 model. And I always nicknamed my cars. I had names for the cars, and they were all homage to Beatles. So first one was Sadie, and it was a dark blue one. And then I bought a 240D, which is a smaller car, and that was Prudence. And so I enjoyed the cars. And I think it was my wife that said, hey, in Shelburne Falls, the neighboring town, we lived in Charlemont, they were doing a movie there, and they were had a company called Picture Cars, and they were looking for cars of a certain vintage that Mercedes I had were. So I ended up listing them, and they would rent the cars from me to park and be part of a movie set. And that morphed into, the gregarious Robert who talks to everybody. I'm dropping off a car and saying, where do you want me to park it? And so the first movie I did, I was an extra in, was called Labor Day. And that was Josh Brolin and Kate Winslet was in it.
Yes.
Yes.
You're an extra in that?
In the first 5
Are you
minutes.
an IMDb like Dr. Charles is?
I don't think I made that. But the cool part is in the first 5 minutes of the movie, there's a scene where Kate Winslet is driving across the bridge into the town. And she's driving an old green Ford station wagon into town, and crossing the bridge in the opposite direction is me driving the yellow Mercedes 240D. And the people who do pictures, it's fantastic because they put like a fake license plate on. They even put a fake inspection sticker on, so it looked at the time. And they spray this liquid on your windshield, so the camera won't see through. You can't see me in the seat of the car. And that's probably because they didn't want to break the camera. But anyway, I'm driving toward her. They sprayed this film on that's anti-reflective or something that allows it not to have a sheen on the windshield. So we did that in one take, and I went and parked the car, and I came back, and the director, one of the assistant directors, said to me, she looked at me and she goes, can you drive a stick? And I go, yes, I can. She said, would you drive that truck? And I go, yes, I would. And it was like an old antique 1960s Townie truck or something. And the thing was belching all kind of fumes out of the engine. And I'm driving the thing and it's stick, and I'm driving it through the thing. And I got out of that one. And then she said, great, can you drive that car? And I go, yes, I can. So I ended up driving like 4 cars in the movie. And oh my gosh, that was just fantastic. And then Sadie, my 83 SD, I actually rented that to them for the movie The Judge with Robert Downey Jr. And you talk about a nice guy. He took all the kids in the community and he met them. He signed autographs for them. And, Sarah, who works here, she was there. He signed a picture for her. And my youngest son, he's now 21. He has special needs. He has Down syndrome, and he brought the Iron Man like DVD case, and he signed it for him. And
Wow.
Downey was just the best to work with. Kindest.
Did he drive in one of your cars?
No, he drove a different car in it, but you can see the car in the movie on the street. And I actually have a scene in the movie where he's coming into town, like he's been away. He's back in this town where his dad lives and is a famous judge and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, I can't believe I'm back here. And as you're looking face on to him in the camera, if you look over his right shoulder, I'm getting in a car on the street. I had one scene there. So I don't know.
You're rubbing elbows with the Iron Man. This is more than I expected.
one more movie and I could apply to be a Screen Actors Guild. But
yes,
it's really funny. Nowadays we'll watch a movie and I think it's called Josh Brolin's doing a new series on TV right now. I think it's on Apple Plus or something. Kay will be mad because I should remember this, but I don't. But anytime I see any of the people that are in those movies, I say, yeah, I remember when we did a movie together.
Me and Robert, me and Downey, yeah, we used to.
We were hanging. It was all good.
Kicking it with Iron Man.
Like I actually knew what was going to happen at the end of Endgame. He told me that in that moment. That's incredible.
The funniest Robert Downey story I have is when they have a movie set, they have all these gangs of porta-johns and stuff. And so they're pretty well used. And so you end up standing in line. So I was taking a break and I go down around the corner and they said, porta-johns this way. So I go down there and I'm waiting for my turn. And I went to grab the handle, and because it didn't say it was occupied, and I went and I grabbed the door. Just as I grabbed the door pops open. I go, Robert Downey. He goes, yes, I used the bathroom too. And he went right past me. This funny moment.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, Jeff Caster was telling you the truth. I rented my Mercedes for movie cars. What a lot of fun. And if you ever get a chance to do something like that, to be an extra, it's just a blast. And talk about technology. Oh my God, and the cameras and the digital and everything. It was just so fascinating to spend a day being on the periphery of that and seeing that.
When they finally make a movie at Polar Park, you'll definitely get some scenes in there running around, doing your thing, blowing bubbles. The other thing I wanted to ask you, I think I got this information from TQ, so we'll see if he's as good of a source as Jeff Caster. I'm just going to come out with it. Did you submit a script for an episode of Seinfeld? Is that a true statement?
That was back when Seinfeld was coming up on their final career.
Wait a minute. But how? What? By what means were you connected to this?
We've got to do something really cool. So the idea and the whole premise of a script was that Jerry Seinfeld and all the rest of his cohorts would go to Florida to visit. Of course, Jerry's parents were down there in Boca del Vista. I think that was the retirement village they were at. And so while they're there, one thing led to another, and Kramer talked them in that they were going to go deep sea fishing or go out on this boat. And while they were out on this boat, obviously there was a storm and there was a shipwreck. And they're on this desert isle. Let's think Gilligan's Island here for a minute. And that they're on this desert isle and their clothes are in tatters. So they find this case that washes up on shore. And it's all the clothing that the Gilligan's Island characters would wear. And of course, when they would put those clothing on, they would start acting like those characters from Gilligan's Island. And hilarity and everything would go forth. And the final scene was Jay Peterman flying in an airplane like a DC-10, doing circles over the water and saying, Bennis, I'll find you. I'll find you. I'll keep looking. And that was kind of the fade to black. And then they did the crappy Massachusetts last episode, which I was like, my idea was so much better.
Deserted island, Gilligan's Island over them in prison. I mean, I'll take that in a second. That's unbelievable. Had you ever written I need to understand how did you wrote a script and submitted it? Did you talk to Jerry Seinfeld ever?
It was not submitted and accepted. It was in the draft stage, and that was the whole premise behind it.
Gotcha.
And everybody laughed about that and said, "Oh my God, you should have submitted it. It should have been accepted." And
gotcha.
But have you seen Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee?
Yes.
That is fantastic. And I'm a car guy, so
it's your wheelhouse.
My wife's a car gal too, and she says, "Oh my God, do you see it?" And I think probably somebody does this, but where you can go rent all these exotic cars. I know that when you saw the credits that Jerry and them would take and rent from different places. But I thought that would be a pretty cool thing. My dad was a car guy too, so I got that honest from him. And just great. You got some real gold there.
I had to do the research. I had to dig up the nuggets. I did everything short of Googling you, which maybe would have been a little bit easier. But no, that's incredible. In college, I took some script writing classes and I wrote some episodes of Big Mouth and of some other shows. And it's very satisfying to write a script and then to watch the show and think, you know what? I think I did it better. I think I did a better job. And I hope there's some of that in my future as well.
That credit to you. doing script writing is really difficult. I think I could write a spec for a construction job easier than that. But, and it's great because back in that time when we were talking about the whole Seinfeld thing, we have this stair step of all our kids and they're all chiming in, wait, what about this? And what about that? And it becomes very collaborative. So it was like the writers club right there in Charlemont with and they were all egging me on. And the one thing you didn't find out about me is I used to be a cartoonist, and I used to do a strip called Observations.
Was this before or after the coal mining?
No, this was back, I think, probably about 2005, and I was working at Yale, and we were redoing Davenport College, and I'd always been a frustrated artist cartoonist, and so my wife went and got the name Observations trademarked for me. And so I started doing strips, and she was actually doing the colorization for them too. And then you find out that the Recorder newspaper did a really nice article on me in Greenfield, Mass. And, I would share my cartoons with people, but you soon find out that in order to be syndicated, you have to have thousands of pieces of work ready. And, when you have a construction career and you're busy as it was, Yale was a 2+ hour push each direction, and would have been fun, but maybe that's something I'll revisit in retirement. I'll have to share some of those with you. And we used to go on road trips, and, Kay would be writing down in a tablet all these different ideas. And it's very Gary Larson-ish. So if you like The Far Side, I think you'd have a real laugh at the ones that I did too. I'll share those with you sometime. Be my pleasure.
Awesome. That's incredible. When I eventually write the sitcom of this park, I'll send you the script. We can work it out together. We'll have a great time.
Polar Park. I mean, get casting, get them out here and do something. And but no disaster films, because I'd have to clean it up.
Oh my goodness! You picture like The Dark Knight Rises, the field all blows up.
It has to be CGI, because Elliot would never let that happen.
No, exactly. I was thinking maybe we have a drive-in movie day, but I don't think you're going to see cars parked on this field anytime soon. I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Woosox Insider Podcast. As more things get built in this park, we're going to have you back on to help promote them and to help celebrate them. But thank you so much for coming on and giving us 43 minutes of your time today. I'm sure that in this 3/4 of an hour, the problems have piled up. The pollen is sticking to everything. We'll have to let you go. But thank you so much for coming on today.
Overcast day here. We're going to be all clear for the ball game tonight. You guys are very kind. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And everything you touch, just try and make it better.
Absolutely. Words to live by. Visit Polar Park. Come see all of our hard work on everything in the park, everything on the video boards. We're putting it on, and we're doing the best we can. And we're having a great time doing it. So thank you guys for being on, and thank you everyone for listening. Go Woosox. We will talk to you again very soon.